I'm Louisa.
And Michael.
And we are retired and living in Mexico. Today's video is going to be all about how we got our residency here and why we chose to get residency. So stay tuned. There's three things that we could do. We could become a citizen of Mexico,
Okay.
or permanent temporary resident, or just tourist.
Do the tourist thing.
And which one did we choose?
Let me just go back just a second. Living on the border in San Diego, we were always tourists. We'd go over to Tijuana and shop or spend a couple of days down to Baja. Never thought about it. It's easy peasy and no need to go through any paperwork to cross the border.
Okay, that's because we lived right at the border.
Exactly.
And if you go right across the border and you're only there for a day, you
shop and go.
Shop. Why did we didn't go shopping? We went over to the orphanage.
The orphanage, and then we stop and have lunch.
Okay, so we would do that about once a month.
Yeah.
And we never worried about being tourists. We did bring our passports with us.
We brought the passports.
Because on the way back, you got to kind of show that you are a U.S. citizen.
But we never thought of beyond that point.
Right. But once we decided to move to Mexico, we could have just stayed tourists, right? You come across, you fly in, they have a paper that you fill out, or I don't know how you do it anymore. Sometimes people say it's online.
Yeah, at the time they gave you 180 days, and then you could pop back across the border for a couple of days and renew that.
You didn't even have to go for a couple of days. You could just go for a day. But
the law changed.
Okay, but we also never just thought about coming for 6 months and leaving.
That's true.
Because when we came as tourists that first time, we just stayed for a week. So you fill out, you're going to be here 7 days. They're like, okay, good, no problem.
Right.
But then we heard about people who are what they call border hoppers. And these people come and go back and forth, and they live here year round.
They live here year round.
But they only get 180 days. So they have to go across the border, either
into the system.
Guatemala or Belize, or back up to
San Diego, or Texas.
And then they get their
180 days renewed.
Right. But a couple years ago, it started happening where people were not getting 180 days automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So they started saying, in order to stay for more than a few days, because it was always up to the border people, they could say, you get a week.
You get a week, or we'll give you look nice, we'll give you 180 days.
Or who knows why. It wasn't just because you look nice. So we decided we didn't want to take that chance. So we looked into getting residency.
Mm-hmm. And/or citizenship.
Yeah. Well, let's talk residency first.
Okay.
That's the first step. So what we did is we got online and started searching around, and found out that you have to start the residency process outside of Mexico.
Yes.
So if you're Canadian, you do it in Canada. If you're from the U.S., you do it in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to do it in the state that you are living in, however.
You can find a consulate that gives you an appointment.
That's right. And so we were from San Diego, but now we're Texas residents. And in a future video, we'll talk about why we're Texas residents.
Right.
But we were living in our RV, so we decided, let's go find us
a consulate that gave us an available appointment.
And since we have family, we have sons in families who live in Texas, we decided, let's try the consulate in San Antonio.
Yeah.
So it was actually quite simple. I emailed the consulate, Mexican consulate in San Antonio, and said, what do I need to do to become residents of Mexico? And I got a response right away that said, just fill out this form, and in a month we'll give you an appointment to bring in all this paperwork.
A lot of paperwork.
And so they gave me a whole list of things that we had to do. So we were going to become temporary or permanent residents at the time. So we had to prove an income. We had to prove
financial solvency.
Solvency, they call it. And quite honestly, we went to the bank and we printed off a year's worth of bank statements to show income that was ongoing.
Marriage certificates, birth certificates,
Copies of everything.
Copies of everything
Passport.
financially.
Yeah. And so then sent all that in through email. And quite surprisingly, we got an appointment a month later.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Problem was, we already had appointments in California for medical appointments for that one day that month coming up.
That's right. I've forgotten about that.
Yeah. So we had to write back and say, ooh, that month doesn't work. Can we do it a month later? So we got that appointment. So off we went. I think it was in April. We finally got our appointments. And I got an appointment for one day. Michael got one for the day before. We were a married couple. They didn't care. We were each individuals. So Michael goes in first with all this paperwork. And tell us about your experience, Michael.
Well, I had heard rumors, and rumors are rumors. I thought I was going to have the interview in Spanish, which would have meant that I would have immediately been disqualified. However, I walked in with all my paperwork. The guy says, sit there. I mean, he's a kind of grumpy DMV kind of guy. I was like, okay, I'll just shut up and sit here. He tells me to go over there and pay my money, then come back. And I'm thinking, okay, here comes the interview in Spanish. He walks away, goes into a room, stamps up all the paper, and says, go get your picture taken. And that was it.
Okay, but what do you mean paid all the money?
Well, there is a fee for the paperwork to be processed.
Like $45.
About $45. And I paid that. The guy said, okay, you're done. I was like, what?
So then he comes out and says, I'm done.
I'm done.
And so my appointment was
the next day.
So I come in there and the guy says, where's all your husband's paperwork? I said, what do you mean? I'm here to do it on my own.
Right.
And he said, no, you're here to come in as a family member of your husband who just got permanent residency yesterday. And I was like, oh, well, I could go ask him for it. And he goes, well, I have copies here. So same guy. So he pulls Michael's paperwork out from under the counter and says, all right, here it is. And stamp. I proved I was married to him. I proved who I was. And I got temporary residency. Now, I could have argued and probably gotten permanent residency at that time because of my income, but he was not interested in that. So I took what I got. And that means after 1 year, well, first.
No, we had to cross the border.
Within 6 months.
6 months.
But we decided to go earlier because we were kind of anxious. So you have 6 months to go into Mexico once you get that visa in your passport.
Yeah, they gave us a visa stamp in the passport.
So you have to kind of follow the rules to get in and make sure you don't mess that up. So then we got to Puerto Vallarta and we worked with this wonderful company called Gringos.
Yeah.
And we just paid them some pesos. And then they helped us walk through the process of getting finished with our canje.
Stress-free.
It was stress-free. However, I had then from that one day, 1 year, I had to go back in with their help, of course, to get my stamp in my passport that said, yes, I have 3 years now before I can become permanent. So it's a 4-year wait to become permanent, but it's just a matter of paying your money. You don't have to prove financial solvency after that first time.
Right.
But what you do have to make sure you do is every time you leave the country, and you don't have to stay here for any certain length of time and you can come back anytime.
Right.
But you have to make sure you don't leave as a tourist. Or come back in as a tourist. Because if you come back in and they stamp your passport as a tourist, they
start the process all over again.
And we don't want to do that. So sometimes we stress when we're flying out, depending on a different airport. We are like, oh no, we're residents. Please don't call us tourists. And then on the way back in, we always go through the citizenship line.
Right.
Which some people look at us like, why are those people going over there? They don't look Mexican. It's like, well, we're residents, we're always flashing our residency card in the airport before we show our passport. Because if you show the passport first, they think you're a tourist. So we always go, oh, we're residents. And then they go, oh, where's your passport? Oh, here it is. So it's not hard. It's just tricky.
Yeah.
So what is the amount of money you need now to be a permanent resident, Michael?
So every year it changes because the peso changes and the dollar changes. Currently, to be a temporary resident, you need to have $4,380 a month. You need to be able to prove that.
Yeah. But to be a permanent resident, you need $7,300 a month to be a permanent resident, and you have to have proof of that. So you have to have proof of pension,
Right.
or you get to show
Savings.
how many dollars of
Savings
savings
and
that is
investment.
for a year. So it doesn't go up based on the peso amount. It goes up on the minimum wage of the Mexican
Or the
worker.
Mexican worker.
So every year it's going to go up. So if you're thinking about becoming a resident, you need to get that done sooner than later, because next year
It may
will
change.
Well,
Yeah.
it probably will.
Probably go up. Yeah.
It's been going up. Ours was not this high when we did it 2 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
No. So we are now residents here. And so people ask
what does
us,
that mean? Oh my goodness.
yeah, do we vote?
Do we vote?
Did we lose our U.S. citizenship?
Absolutely not.
No. And we will always be U.S. citizens. We get our pensions through our banks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the ATM here to draw out pesos. And it's easy peasy, but you do need to have a bank that doesn't charge, what's that called? Foreign transaction fees.
Yeah.
Which the Navy Federal Credit Union does not. Schwab doesn't either.
Schwab doesn't either. A lot of our friends use Schwab, and there might be other banks, but we know Schwab, and because we've been affiliated with the Navy Federal Credit Union, they actually give us ATM fees back. We love it.
ATM fees, but the foreign transaction
The foreign
fee,
transaction.
none of that.
No.
None of that. So we don't even worry about if we are citizens here. We don't intend to become citizens. You have to be a permanent resident, first of all, and then you have to pass some tests.
Yeah.
But the only benefit you get
Would be
by
voting, maybe.
is voting.
I have
And
no,
we don't really
we
wanna
don't
vote.
have any intention of that. We have enough things to be concerned about the U.S. voting system.
Yeah, we will go back
Yeah.
in October, late October, to vote this year. So we can make sure our voice is heard. But we are residents of Texas. We since moved from California to Texas, and we'll do another video about why we did that and how that benefits us. And you might want to do that too. But we've also had a question from friends that say, do you pay taxes on Mexico's income, since you're getting an income in Mexico, and pay taxes in the U.S.?
Well, we're not getting any kind of income from the country of Mexico, first of all. If we did, we would have to pay taxes on that income. All of our income comes from the United States. And of course, we file taxes, federal taxes every year.
Yes. And so we do continue to pay taxes in the U.S. based on our pensions. But that's really nice that we don't have to worry about Mexico's taxes. Also, our mail, do we get mail delivered here in Mexico?
We don't have our mail delivered here in Mexico.
And the mail system in Mexico
is challenging.
Yeah, no.
There are ways to get things here in Mexico, and we can talk about that in the future, but we don't do any mail, snail mail, or anything like that.
No, we have a mailing address in Texas, and that's our permanent address, and that's where our banks and everything,
pensions,
all that stuff goes to. Yeah. So we don't get mail here. We do everything electronically, basically. Email. It's great. And we're going to talk about some of the expenses that we have here in Mexico that are different than if we were to stay in the U.S., and how nice it is to not have those anymore. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because the expenses have gone way down here in Mexico.
Car maintenance.
We don't even have a car, so it's okay. But so we want to talk about residency, taxes, and mail. And we did that.
Yeah.
So if you have questions about any of that we may not have been real clear on, please leave those questions in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Hasta luego.